proteins are derived from chains of amino acids that are formed by peptide bonds. And these amino acids derive from, of course, it can derive from nature. That's what we call essential amino acids. And then you have some which naturally occur in our body and naturally are produced in those bodies and are in randomness floating throughout all the cells of our bodies, actually. But those are amino acids in the cells of the nervous system, mainly the cells in our human brain. So we have these are different structures of neurotransmitters. So these are like mostly the chemical structures, peptide bonds, different hydrogen bonds, and so forth like that. Different type of bonds you may see inside these different proteins. So you have adrenaline, noradrenaline, dopamine, serotonin, GABA, acetylcholine, glutamate, endorphins. You have a few more. Adrenaline is, I believe, categorized as a hormone actually that's produced in adrenal glands, but sometimes it can be quote unquote neuromodulator. It modulates activity in the nervous system. So it can technically, you can consider it a neurotransmitter in a sense, but the difference between neurotransmitters and hormones is hormones usually run through blood vessels in the circulatory system and goes through cells in that specific way, and are usually secreted by glands, while neurotransmitters are produced in the nervous system and only transmits through nerve impulses. But you have adrenaline in this case is a fight or flight hormone. Basically means like whenever you see an animal, especially an animal that your brain perceives as a threat, you start to produce these chemicals. The hormone cortisol gets produced, you have adrenaline produced, you have noradrenaline and also being produced. They also can be called epinephrine and neuroepinephrine as well. But you release all these throughout your nervous system and throughout your circulatory system. So one of those actually helps to dilate the blood vessels to get more blood rush into certain areas and constrict blood vessels to certain areas that are essentially needed in that case. And then the other hormone is actually in your blood and running through your nervous system to actually target those areas and stimulate those various organs needed. Like, for example, your muscle cells are much needed. You don't need to digest your food, or you don't need to be aroused down there in the moment of fight or flight. It's basically an assume of pleasure, but it's not solely just pleasure. I could even say you can consider pleasure with more so serotonin and, depending on your context of it, oxytocin. But in this case, I'll stick to dopamine in terms of like the pursuit, anticipation, and the motivation factor. So whenever I'm doing an activity and I expect a certain outcome, I have a plethora of dopamine produced. Whenever I'm on social media and I know I'm going to anticipate something exciting, something good, whenever I know I'm going to see someone, all these type of things that are in anticipation, or I have to go after something in pursuit, or if I'm highly motivated to do an activity because I expect a certain outcome, I'll see how all these tie together. That's essentially dopamine. So as the definition says here, you have pleasure, addiction, movement, and motivation. It's basically derived from the amino acid tryptophan. And tryptophan, stability, this helps with our mood, this helps with confidence, this helps with pain, this helps with sleep. This is very important in the sleep-wake cycle. So serotonin is also a precursor to the hormone melatonin. And melatonin, we know, is associated with sleep. So if you have good production of serotonin, it's like a wave that goes up and down. You have that good production of melatonin on the back end. The same thing with the amino acids, because remember now, these are proteins, and proteins are chains of amino acids. And amino acids that make up these various neurotransmitters are extremely important to give their function. Like, for example, like the amino acid like phenylalanine that leads to tyrosine. And tyrosine we have to get in food because our body doesn't produce it. We can find that in dopamine, acetylcholine, adrenaline, noradrenaline, and so forth, because as you can see, tyrosine, that amino acid, but it has those excitatory components that is a precursor to those various neurotransmitters that I mentioned. Endorphins and acetylcholine you usually find when it comes to movement. That can mean like exercise, walking, things like that. GABA is a calming neurotransmitter, and it's prevalent in the central nervous system, and it evolves from the amino acid glutamine, and it helps with promoting calmness and relaxation. So it's basically like one of the body's form of natural opioids, and we do produce natural opioids in our body. So as you can see, endorphins, GABA, serotonin, all these neurotransmitters are responsible for basically helping us feel good, feel euphoric, feel relaxed, feel rested, feel safe, feel calm. So you don't really need to be taking painkillers like that in case of it's an extreme case. But I'm always an advocate for going the natural way and letting your body do its thing, even in terms of the immune system as well.